So, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I understand you guys kind of maybe tied one on a bit last night. Is that what happened here? Good for you for being here today. So, hold on. So let me just organize some. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's get started. So yes, Mike is right. I was here and spoke to you last May, and I talked about legal trends in the law industry, in the legal community. And today I'm going to be talking to you about giving you a legal trends update for 2019. Right? So we'll be talking about using data to shape the future of legal in Canada, and we will touch on, how you guys can really make and have an impact on your members and help set them up for success in running their law firms. So let's get started. So yeah, as Mike mentioned, my name is Rio from Clio, and Rio Peterson is my actual name, and I'm the Affinity Programs Coordinator at Clio. So that means that I am responsible for managing and caring for the 74 partnerships that we have with law societies, bar associations, and legal organizations across North America. It's a big job, and my team and I do our best to make sure that we really take care of all of our partners and are helping them do the best they can by their members. So yeah, and I'm really happy to be asked back here a second time to speak to you guys, so hi. All right, so let's talk about today's agenda. First thing I'm going to do is introduce you to Clio. How many of you have heard of Clio before? I mean, obviously you've seen, yeah, okay, that's great. So most of you already know, you're already up to date, that's great. And then we'll talk a little bit about the Legal Trends Report and kind of give you an overview of what that is and why we do it. Then we'll talk about why the Legal Trends Report is an important piece of research, and we'll go over some key insights from the 2019 report, and then we'll talk about the role of law societies in shaping the future of legal tech in Canada, and then we'll go over some Q&A. Sound good? Everyone's good? Yep, okay, great. So, got a little bit of a data-heavy presentation for you this morning, so I'll try to keep it as light as possible and not overload you so early in the morning with numbers and percentages, okay? So just if I see any heads nodding off, I'm gonna dial it back a bit, okay? Cool. All right, so Clio. We are, as Mike said, a legal tech company. We were founded in 2008, and we are based out of Vancouver, Canada. So we are a Canadian company, and we really pride ourselves on our mission of transforming the practice of law for good. So we want to leave the legal industry better than we found it. And as part of that mission, we are always looking for new opportunities to make a positive impact. And in 2015, we recognized that there was pretty much no data about how small and solo firms were running their practices. It was next to impossible to find information like that. So we saw that as an opportunity to do some research and do some investigation and then share our findings with the legal community with the intention of providing actionable insights that small and solo firms can use to build more successful practices and a more successful, sustainable future for themselves. And that's kind of how the Legal Trends Report was born. So the Legal Trends Report is basically a study. It's a culmination of research that we do every single year, and we look at the details of how law firms run their practices. So things like how many hours are they billing on average, where are their clients coming from. We look at actionable information that is useful and that can be used to run a better practice. So why do we do it? That's a really great question. I mean, aside from the fact that there was no research like this before we started doing it, we do it for other reasons. And the first one is that the legal tech landscape is changing. And there's no denying that. It is moving at breakneck speed, and small and solo law firms are facing challenges. They're facing challenges to cut their costs while also providing better client experiences to consumers who have come to expect a lot more from their legal providers. And how can you expect them to adapt to these changes if they don't have the right tools to do that? So we think it's really important that we help to provide firms with the right tools. And we see data as a tool. I mean, at Clio, we use data to inform the decisions we make about our business, about our product, and about how we can better serve our clients. And we really think that data should be used by the legal industry to inform those same decisions about where the industry is going. So that's another reason why we do the Legal Trends Report. In addition, we also want to help lawyers offer a better client experience to their clients. I mean, we live in an age of one-day shipping and instant downloads, so it's really no surprise that legal consumers have come to expect a lot more from the services that they're getting from their lawyers. They have higher expectations around communication, around transparency. Like, they want to know how much these services cost. They want to understand the process. They want to be more involved and have more information coming to them. And that requires a lot more from small and solo firms, right? That requires resources. And it also requires paying attention to those needs. So we want to provide that kind of information to make it easier for firms to adapt to those changing needs. And finally, the last reason is that we have noticed that small and solo firms are basically facing competition from a new type of competitor. Who here has heard of automated legal services? Anybody? Yeah, some of you. And I spoke about this last May. So these are basically cloud-based legal service providers, and they use the exact same kind of technology and data that could be used to make small and solo firms more efficient. They use it to potentially put small and solo firms out of business. So recent developments in artificial intelligence, so AI technology, is making it possible for machines to offer legal services in place of lawyers. Now, yeah, I know everyone's like, what? But now this is Weavorce. Anyone heard of Weavorce before? No? Okay, so they are a startup based out of the US, and they use AI to guide couples through the divorce process. So AI conducts an interview. Yeah, so AI conducts an interview where clients indicate their preferred outcome. I mean, naturally it's a divorce, but they kind of lay out the parameters for that. And if a hard question comes up, only then does a human step in. That's a big deal. I mean, taking lawyers out of the legal process, like that's a threat. So on the flip side, we have Blue Jay Legal. Has anyone ever heard of these guys? Hey, yeah, okay, fabulous. You should, because they are a Toronto-based company, and they actually use AI to do case prediction outcomes for tax law. Now, this is an interesting example because for Blue Jay, like, they're using AI to help lawyers, right? But that exact same technology can actually be used, again, to remove them from the legal process. The technology that Blue Jay Legal is using is also being used in other areas to do things like due diligence when it comes to cases, and to sorry you guys, I'm also really jet lagged. I just gotta say that. I'm like, came from BC, I'm like, what? Anyway, so I digress. Sorry, I was like, give me a second. So anyway, so the AI that they use is also being used to assist with class action lawsuits by doing due diligence and doing client intake, and it can also be used to review and maintain contracts. So all things that lawyers do, but that if you're not careful and you're not keeping your finger on the pulse of changes in the legal tech world, I mean, you can be replaced by a computer. So that's definitely a reason that we want to make sure that we arm small and solo firms with the tools that they need to navigate the new challenges that they're facing on a daily basis, and so that they can not just navigate them, but that they can thrive in this new environment, in this new legal landscape. So let's talk about the Legal Trends Report. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on the data set that we use to conduct this research every year. So, excuse me. Every single year, we compile a massive cohort of data in order to put this report together. So we gather data from 70,000 Clio firms. It is aggregated, we anonymize it, we do not use data from client files. Okay, that's a very important thing for you to know. There is no identifying client information in here. We use metadata, so we focus on things like hourly rates, hours worked in a week, things like that. And we also do law firm surveys, so we survey about 2,000 legal professionals, law firms, both Clio and non-Clio customers. We also do a consumer survey where we survey roughly 2,000 legal consumers who have either dealt with a legal problem or hired a lawyer within the last 2 years, right? Now, I also want us all to know, like going into this, that the data in this report is based on US firms, all right? But that doesn't mean that it doesn't apply, that the information and the insights that are found in this report don't apply to Canadian law firms, right? Like, this report focuses on identifying actionable and useful insights into how to run any law firm more efficiently and in a more client-centered way. So definitely valuable insights, and in time, I'm sure that Canada will one day be able to have this type of reporting available specifically for Canadian lawyers, but at the moment, we just don't have the type of data set available in order to do that, okay? So, let's talk about past reports. We have been doing the legal trends reports for 4 years now. And over the last 3 years, we benchmarked several critical business metrics for the legal industry with the explicit goal of giving lawyers the insights they need to really measure the health of their practices. Now, in 2018, we kind of expanded our purview and we looked at consumer perceptions when they were looking for a lawyer. We looked at what kind of factors determine client satisfaction. And we also started to explore how lawyers think about their practices, how they define success, how they perceive their clients. We really want to try to understand as much as we possibly can about lawyers and how they are moving around in the legal community. So the 2019 report just came out. It came out in October, and it is our absolutely, I have to say, my favorite. It is our best report yet. And this year we wanted to focus on what thriving looks like for lawyers. Now, because this year is our 4th year of doing this report, that means that all of the previous year's data have culminated into the first longitudinal, is my time up? I was like, that was really quick. So all of the data from the previous year's reports have culminated into the first longitudinal study of the legal profession ever. So that's a really, really big deal, okay? That means that we have data and insights from the last 4 years and that we can track trends over 4 years rather than just looking at each individual year. So that's what we've done for the 2019 report. Now, let's take a look at some of the key insights from this year's report. This year we focused on 3 key areas. So the first one, law firm growth. We really, really want to understand the factors that contribute to law firm growth, whether that's high growth or just keeping your law firm running on a stable trajectory. We also looked at client expectations. So what are the unmet needs of legal consumers? And then finally, we looked at how well equipped are lawyers to meet the needs and the challenges that they're facing. What kind of education do they have? How confident are they in their abilities? And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the presentation. And we'll also talk about how law societies can really equip their members with the tools that they need to be more confident in running their businesses. All right? So, let's get started. Now, part 1, our law firm growth study. So what does thriving look like for lawyers? Now, this year we focused on examining high growth firms. Okay, so law firms that have managed to increase their revenues year over year. And we really wanted to find out what kind of factors are influencing that type of growth so that we can develop a roadmap for small firms to follow when they want to grow their practices. Now, the market for legal services is kind of facing a paradox. On one hand, you have lawyers who want to grow their firms, but they can't find the clients to do it. But then you have legal consumers who can't find the right lawyer to meet their needs, and their needs for legal services are going unmet. So this is a paradox that really should not exist, but it does. And however, high growth firms have been able to navigate this paradox by focusing on 2 critical factors: firm performance and client expectations. Now, we've illustrated these factors that to help track the trajectory of firm growth in what we're calling the law firm maturity model. Okay, so this model helps us plot the growth trajectory of any type of firm. Firms that end up in the lower left quadrant are firms that are maybe just starting out. Maybe they're having trouble finding clients. Maybe they're trying to grow, but they're really not sure how. Whereas firms who focus on firm performance mainly end up in the far right quadrant and become very productive. They're very good at increasing the output per lawyer. Firms that focus on client experience over anything else move up to the top left quadrant and become responsive. They're very responsive to client needs. But firms who focus on both shoot straight through the middle and become thriving. They're kind of like this idealistic, what you really want out of a firm. They're well balanced, they're efficient, and they're client-centered. So keep this kind of in the back of your head. We're going to talk about some data, and then we'll come back to it and see how it all kind of fits together, okay? Now, for this year's law firm growth study, we zeroed in on 3 types of law firms as defined by their total revenue growth between 2013 and 2017, right? So firms that grew their revenues by at least 20% over 5 years are high growth firms. Those are growing firms, okay? Stable firms neither grew nor declined by 20% over 5 years. And shrinking firms saw their revenues decline by at least 20% over 5 years. So those are the 3 types of firms that we've chosen to focus on. And the reason that we chose to define them by their revenue growth is that aside from being an objective and quantitative benchmark for success, 71% of lawyers consider their most important factor in law firm growth to be revenue. That is just hands down the most important thing. So revenue is also a standard measure of overall health for any type of business, right? Whether you're a small solo law firm or Google. Everybody, revenue is always what it comes down to. However, there's also, other things that factor into law firm growth. So we wanted to focus mainly on revenue, but we also included other factors. We looked at things like revenue, obviously, clients, getting more clients. That's a really important factor in law firm growth. The number of lawyers that you're hiring, the number of support staff that you're hiring, practice areas, and geographic locations. So we've tried to factor in and examine as many things as we possibly can to get as clear an understanding of what contributes to law firm growth as we possibly could. So let's take a look at some of the things that we uncovered about those factors and how they influence law firm growth. So at the start of our analysis, we expected that total revenue earnings would correlate strongly between the number of lawyers hired and the number of clients and matters worked. But interestingly enough, that was not the case. Kind of, but not really. So growing firms were able to take on increasingly more cases relative to the number of lawyers that they had. So growing firms over 5 years hired about 32% more lawyers, right? But they managed to increase their caseload and their clients and their cases worked by 57%. So that's like double, right? So clearly they're focusing on firm performance. But not only that, they managed to increase their revenues by 112% over 5 years. So, to put this into perspective, growth for these firms increased at 3 times the rate at which they brought on new lawyers, and their casework increased at twice the rate. That's pretty impressive. Now, for stable firms, we found that there really wasn't a great deal of variation between the factors we examined. They kind of kept things pretty level, hence why they're called stable firms, right? But while revenue kind of correlated with an increase in the number of lawyers and cases worked for each firm, it was kind of the opposite effect for shrinking firms, right? Shrinking firms saw their lawyers reduced by 17% over 5 years. But they saw their number of cases drop by 40%. And their resulting drop in revenue was 54%. So they're losing productivity as they're losing lawyers. So the amount of output per lawyer is decreasing every time they lose a lawyer, which is a really interesting kind of thing to think about, like why? What factors are contributing to that? But while the revenue growth correlated with an increase in the number of lawyers and cases worked, the growth was disproportionate ultimately. So that led us to look at the other factors that contribute to firm success. Now earlier I mentioned that since publishing the Legal Trends Report, we benchmarked several critical data metrics for the legal industry. And 3 of those metrics are utilization rate, realization rate, and collection rate. Has anyone ever heard of those? Anybody? If you were here last time, I expect you to raise your hand because I talked about them. Yeah, there we go. Okay, some of you guys, fabulous. So utilization rate, sorry, I'll mention that. I'm going to talk about realization rate and collection rate in a second, but for now we're going to focus on utilization rate. Utilization rate is the percentage of an 8-hour day that lawyers spend on billable work. So of an 8-hour day worked, how many hours are you billing, right? And bear in mind that this does not include flat rate, okay, that's a totally different measure, but as far as billable hours goes, utilization rate is a key metric for revenue growth among firms. Now in 2018, the average utilization rate for a law firm was 31%. meaning that the average lawyer spent about 2.4 hours a day on billable work. And interestingly enough, that's a trend that has remained relatively consistent over the last 4 years of reporting. Now, growing firms put increasingly more time towards billable work every day. So you can see here that in the first year of our sample, stable firms have the highest rate of utilization compared to growing and shrinking firms. But over time, utilization rates climb from 28 to 33% for growing firms, right, passing that of stable firms. Now, meanwhile, the opposite is true for shrinking firms, okay? So, which see their utilization rate steadily decline to 21% over 5 years. Now, you're kind of like, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, the impact of utilization on a firm revenue cannot be understated. Now, to put it into perspective, the difference between a 21% utilization rate and a 33% utilization rate is about 12% of a day, so about an hour a day, which means that growing firms are putting in 1 hour a day toward billable work than shrinking or stable firms. And if you compound that week after week, year after year, I mean, that is a significant amount that is contributing to firm revenue. So what about other metrics? What about realization and collection rates? Now, these are two really, really key metrics that we look at, and they're very, very important because they are a measure of how much value you are getting out of the work you're doing. So realization rate refers to the amount of time that actually ends up on a bill. So of the time that you worked, put toward billable hours, how much of that is ending up on a bill? Okay, that's your realization rate. Now, collection rate refers to of the time that ended up on a bill, how much of it are you getting paid for? How much of it are you collecting on? Okay, does that seem pretty straightforward? Everyone following? We're still awake? Awesome, love it. So, now, again, I want to really reiterate this, that both of these are really critical metrics for business performance because you need to know what the value of your work is. And if you're getting the most value out of your work, then you're going to be able to grow your firm or at least keep it stable and keep it running in a sustainable way. Now, when we look at these two factors for growing, shrinking, and stable firms, we can see that growing firms start out with a 90% realization rate. So 90% of the time that they're billing, they're working, they're putting toward billable hours is ending up on a bill. And that's really fantastic. That's a really great realization rate. Like, you want to be getting paid the most you possibly can. You want to be, billing your clients the most you possibly can. So for shrinking firms, though, they start off at a lower realization rate of like 86%, and then that declines to 77%. So that means that shrinking firms increasingly do not charge for the work that they do. And there's a variety of reasons why that could be, but a lot of it may have to do with them just not tracking their work. A lot of it may have to do with them feeling that they need to discount it more because they're more likely to get paid if they do. There's a lot of reasons why that could be happening. Now, stable firms show the highest realization rate of all three groups, reaching as high as 92%. Right? And that indicates that growing firms, when compared to stable firms, are actually more likely to conduct billable work that never actually gets billed when compared to stable firms, which is odd. But although both do manage to maintain a high realization rate. So when it comes to collection rate, growing firms track nearly identical to stable firms, and both maintain high collection rates above 90% at all times. And that's key. That indicates that they are giving their clients options to pay. They're making it easy for them to pay. They're also attracting the type of clients who can pay. Now, if you look at shrinking firms, you see a dramatically diminishing collection rate over time that ends up dropping to 81%, meaning that they likely don't have proficient processes in place to run after their clients when they're not paying their bills. Maybe they're not offering enough options to pay. Maybe they don't offer online payments. Maybe they don't have the type of clients who can pay. But those are definitely things to think about if you find, if a firm is in decline, right? Like, what is stopping us from increasing that collection rate? Why aren't we getting paid? Now, the result on overall business revenues is that shrinking firms increasingly less over time from the work that they perform, while growing and stable firms are able to maintain a relatively high earnings for every hour worked. So, what about factors that don't contribute to law firm growth? What about hourly rates. Like, you would think that increasing your hourly rate would it contribute to law firm growth, but we actually found that that wasn't the case. All three types of firms increased their hourly rates at the same rate, whether they were shrinking or growing or stable. So that really indicates that, I mean, hourly rates don't have that much of an impact on your revenue. What really has an impact is the amount of value and work you're getting out of each attorney and how much client or focus you're putting on client experience. Now, when we put this all into perspective of the law firm maturity model, I'm just having problems talking this morning, you guys, so thank you for bearing with me. Now, when we put this all into perspective of the law firm maturity model, we can see that growing firms steadily increase the number of cases and clients they bring in. Okay, now that shows that they understand client needs and how to attract new business. And that comes from a focus on client experience, which is the left axis. Now, growing firms are also able to dedicate more time to billable work and capture more revenue from the work that they actually perform, which means that they're focusing on developing efficiencies within their law firms, standardizing their workflows, ensuring that it's as easy as possible for their lawyers to focus on the work that they need to be doing, work is again, hi, my mouth is not working. Again, work that is going to be contributing to firm revenue. Great, thanks for bearing with me during that. All right, so while improving along either one of these axes will undoubtedly improve any business, right? Your firm will grow if you focus mostly on client experience. It'll also grow if you focus mostly on firm performance. But if you focus on both dimensions, then you'll achieve the type of success that comes from, or that you will achieve the type of success seen among the highest growing law firms. So let's kind of wrap that up. I know that was a lot. That was a lot of information. But let's do a quick recap. So higher billable rates do not guarantee sustained revenue growth. In fact, the opposite is often the case. So fastest growing firms have realization and collection rates that are not perfect, but they are stable. And incremental increases in lawyer utilization, so increasing your utilization rate from 28 to 33%, has significant impact in firm and revenue growth. All right? So that covers our law firm growth study.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The utilization rate, that was 2.4 hours?
Yeah, 2.5.
I just wanted to make sure
Yeah. Yep, yeah, 2.5. Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so let's move on to the next part of this year's report. We looked at client expectations. We wanted to understand what are the unmet needs of the market. So, sorry, hold on, I'm having technical difficulties here. All right, fabulous. So we surveyed 2,000 consumers to learn how clients ultimately choose one lawyer over another, because this is really important information to understand. Now, we looked at how consumers shop for a lawyer. I don't think it's working. Actually, it's not that I don't think it's working, it's not working, so. Yeah, I'm supposed to get that's supposed to be coming, but I hit it and nothing happens. You're showing them my notes.
Sorry, I got out of there quickly. There we go. So are you supposed to be now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Sorry
Awesome.
about that.
Great. Thank you. Okay, fabulous. So, getting back to it. So understanding the unmet needs in the marketplace. So we looked at how do consumers shop for a lawyer? And what do they look for and expect as they make their decisions? And critically, where are their expectations met and where are they missed? Now, we surveyed, oh no, again, it's still, okay, there we go. So the first thing we looked at was how clients shop for lawyers, right? Now, 59% of clients sought a referral from someone that they know or someone that they've been in contact with. Now, 57% searched on their own by some other means, and there were 16% who did both. Now, this is interesting because previously we thought that referrals were the main source of business for lawyers. But in actuality, there are other sources like internet sites, online search engines, lawyers' websites. It's really important to understand this because lawyers who are only focusing on referrals are missing out on a big opportunity to attract clients from other sources. Okay, hold on, let me see if I can, it's not. There we go, okay. I found a workaround, it's okay. All right, so in addition to looking at how they find a lawyer, we also look at kind of the details of how they search for a lawyer. Now, as I mentioned before, referrals are a big source, but lawyers' websites, search engines, online reviews are really key as well. So a lot of times referrals come from other lawyers, they come from previous clients, family members, but they also come from non-legal professionals, so like accountants, real estate agents, people like that. So it's really important that firms focus on building relationships and promoting themselves in as many places as they possibly can. And so interestingly enough, 18% of clients who looked for a lawyer said they would never seek a referral, which is interesting, and 17% said that they would never get a referral from a non-legal professional, and 14% said they'd never get a referral from another lawyer. So you kind of have this interesting situation where you've got people who are really into referrals, really not into referrals, but are also having trouble still, regardless of how they're looking for lawyers, finding a new lawyer. So still technical difficulties here. Okay, sorry, was it? Okay, great. All right, so we also looked at the importance to clients. What kind of things are important to them when they're looking for a new lawyer? So there isn't just one thing that clients expect when reaching out to a lawyer. Clients want to know as much as they can in a timely manner. So 45% of consumers who have experienced a legal issue agree that their challenge in finding a lawyer is finding a lawyer that they are confident is right for them. Now, regardless of how they search for a lawyer, the majorities of consumers indicated that the following were really important to them. So, number one, a timely response. 77% of people want a response in like a very short amount of time. 72% want to know a lawyer's experience and their credentials. That goes a long way into helping them feel confident in that lawyer's ability to take on their case. Now, another 72% want to know what types of cases lawyers handle, and 70% want a clear understanding of the legal process and what to expect. Now, while potential clients say that they want an estimate of the total cost for their cases, that doesn't necessarily mean that they see price as a barrier to hiring a good lawyer. If they perceive the value in that lawyer's skills and abilities, they are more willing to pay a higher price, because they feel that the investment is worth it. Now let's talk about expected response times. This is a contentious issue because, a lot of the times lawyers just don't have the time to respond right away. Somebody reaches out to you and I personally understand the challenges of an endless email inbox that it keeps coming in and you're like, I don't have time. Like inbox zero, I don't think that's a thing anymore. So, but at the same time, you do have to consider that clients have the expectation that you're going to respond within a certain amount of time. And 79% of them want a response within 24 hours or less. 24 hours, that's not a lot of turnaround time. But that is also a really good opportunity to use technology in order to leverage that kind of response time, or leverage technology in order to offer that kind of response time. But so not only do they want response within 24 hours, they also want information when you respond. So they want 81% of them want a response to every question they ask. So if they call you, if they email you, they want answers to every single question. Now, 80% say that it's important to have a clear understanding of how to proceed. They want to know the next steps. They want to know what comes next, what you need from them next. 76% also want a clear understanding, again, of how much their case is going to cost. They want transparency when it comes to cost. And 74% want to know the full process of what their case is going to look like. They want to know how this is going to proceed, what you think the outcome could be. They want to know as much as you can possibly tell them. And that helps to inspire their confidence in a lawyer's ability to help them. You have to think about it this way. Consumers coming into a situation where they need a lawyer are generally very stressed. They're very anxious. They're very maybe confused and overwhelmed by this process. They want to know that you understand their anxieties and that you're able to put those to rest and that you've got this in hand. So, how well do consumers think lawyers are meeting those expectations when it comes to the shopping for a lawyer in the hiring process? How do you guys think consumers think lawyers are doing? Good? Sort of good? No? I see a lot of head shaking and I feel like you're all right. Yeah, so the answer is not great, okay? 64% of consumers that contacted a law firm never got a reply. Like nobody replied to them. 65% didn't get any indication on what to do next. Is it? Okay, yeah. 64% didn't get a sense of how much their case would cost. And 62% didn't understand the process for their case. And 61% did not get enough information that they could understand. So, there we go. And 52% said that the lawyer they spoke with wasn't likable or friendly enough. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like you all, yeah, I'm happy you're all laughing about that one. So I mean, that just really illustrates that the consumer's perception of you and your abilities is really, really important. And that bedside manner is a huge factor in client experience and in meeting client expectations. And really, it doesn't take much to put on a smile and, be nice and pleasant with somebody. I mean, yeah, sometimes it does, but for the most part, it doesn't. So, all right, let's kind of wrap that up. That's kind of those are our high-level takeaways from our consumer expectation study, all right? So, consumers seem to either get a referral or try to figure it out on their own using online search, websites, or directories, all right? So that means that small and solo firms should be focusing on advertising their services through a variety of means. Now, consumers are overwhelmingly looking for responsiveness and information. Answer all the questions. That's essential. It's very, very important and high on the list of what clients need and what they expect. And in their eyes, shopping for a lawyer currently leaves much to be desired. So that means that's a huge opportunity for firms to make that process easy, streamlined, and as transparent and simple as you possibly can. And those clients will be coming to you because they'll be like, oh my gosh, it was such an easy experience. Yeah, go with that person. So let's move on and talk about part 3. How prepared are lawyers to meet the challenges of growing their practice while also offering better client experience and increasing firm performance? How do lawyers feel about their abilities to meet those challenges? And more importantly, how can all of you help your members to thrive? So, defining success for lawyers. How do lawyers feel? Let's find out. So 87% of lawyers agree that they want their firms to grow over the next 3 years. And 67% say that they want to grow more than a little, all right? But 76% of lawyers say that they are overworked, and 68% say they feel underappreciated. Does anyone feel like, yeah, maybe you feel overworked and underappreciated? Anybody? I see some heads nodding. Yep, okay. But on the bright side, the majority of people who are lawyers, so it's 69%, love being a lawyer. They love it. They love their job. And 82% really like working with clients. So that's fabulous. I think the goal here is to just make lawyers feel like they're getting the most value out of their time possible. All right, so as we have seen from the law firm maturity model, there are 2 critical components to running a law firm, and those are beyond having expert knowledge of the law and giving great legal advice, right? So one component is the effort that goes into understanding and delivering quality client experiences. And the other is organizing everything in the firm to be focused on efficiency and productivity. So 92% of lawyers, there we go, 92% of lawyers are very confident in their skills as a lawyer, but only 53% are confident in their skills of running the business side of their firm. Does that come as a shock to anybody? Is anyone surprised? No, yeah, no. and you shouldn't be. So confident lawyers spend more time on the business side of their firm. So those who are confident in running their business spend much more time on things like reading books and articles about how to run their business, focusing on financial planning, focusing on marketing. But only 43% of those who were not confident in running their business focused on any kind of business education and business learning because they don't necessarily have the confidence, they don't know where to even start with that kind of thing, and also they don't want to make a mistake. So not only that, but lawyers who are confident in running their business tend to worry less about it. Only 32% of lawyers who are confident are worried about something falling through the cracks, versus 78% who are not confident in running their business. They're constantly worried about something falling to pieces, overlooking something. And we all know that, mental health and wellness among lawyers is, it's a very important topic. So lawyers are always facing huge amounts of stress, right? It's a stressful job. So any way that we can kind of mitigate that and reduce that stress by giving lawyers the confidence they need to run their businesses is a big win. So, yep, okay, sorry, it's behind. But no, it's okay, I will figure it out. All right, so for those who reported not being confident in running their business, only 69% reported having no business training at all. None. So that's like 69% of people who are not confident in running their firms, they're not confident because they've got no training. 72% say that they don't know enough about running a business. So maybe they do have some business education, but they still just aren't quite there yet. And 7% of lawyers, okay, and this is going to come as a big shock, only 7% of lawyers feel that law school prepared them for running a business. Does anyone here feel like their law school prepared them for running a business? 0%? Yeah, well, maybe. Is there anybody in here that feels like their school prepared them for running a business? Anyone? 7% is very high? Okay, let's knock it down to 0 for the purposes of this presentation, because everyone in here is like, yeah, no, that wasn't a thing that we learned about. And obviously that doesn't come as a shock to any of you, because law schools focus on preparing lawyers for practicing the law, for doing it competently and ethically, and for serving their clients to the best of their ability. They don't teach lawyers how to run a business, which is honestly a shocking oversight, because the majority of lawyers who graduate from law school will become small business owners. You're running your own firm? That's a small business. So, here's a question. How do you think lawyers feel about the ability of their law societies and their bar associations to offer them the kind of resources and support they need when it comes to running their business? Do you think they think their bar associations are doing a great job? Anybody? Yeah? No? I see some head shaking. So, only 23% of lawyers feel that their bar association provides adequate business training. Only 23%. But the good news is, this is a major opportunity for you guys. This is an opportunity for you to fill in those gaps and to make up for that lack of training that the training they're not getting in school. So you ultimately, as their bar associations, as their law societies, should be their first line of support and resources. When a lawyer has a question about running their business, they should know, hey, I could go to my law association. I could go to my bar association, my law society. I know where to go to get these resources. And I know that the topic, what is going on? Sorry guys, technical difficulties. I don't think this computer's awake yet. Okay, here we go. So, given the theme of this month's plenary, Igniting Your Membership, I thought that it would be a really good opportunity to kind of cover some of the ways that you can help provide additional resources for your members. And one of the best things you can do is provide comprehensive practice management and business development resources. Now, this year at the Clio Cloud Conference, so that's a conference that my work, that Clio puts on every year, my program, my team and I invited all of our bar association partners from the US to come and join us for a workshop that was designed to help them evaluate their current practice management and business development resource offering. All right, and we help them evaluate their resources based on 3 kind of critical criteria. So the first is content. What kind of topics do your resources cover? Are they up to date? Is the content relevant? Ownership, who's responsible for the content? Does that person have the tools they need to keep bringing in new content, to keep it updated, to keep it relevant? Important things to ask. The second is accessibility. What kind of formats are your resources in? Are they PDFs? Are they videos? What else? There's others, but what formats are they in? Their location. Where are they? Are they on your website? Are they easy to find? I mean, you can have all the practice management and business resources in the world, but if your members can't find them, if they're like buried in deep in the depths of your website, then they're not any good to anybody. So it's important to think about those things. And the last one is awareness. Do your members, there we go. The last one is awareness. Do your members know that these resources are there? Are you telling them that they're there? Are you helping them find them? Are you helping to connect them with these resources? Do they know that you know how to help them run their business? These are, really, really important things to think about. And I don't know, I really feel very passionately about this because we really, really want to give every law firm and every lawyer the tools they need to succeed. And if law schools aren't going to do that, and if regulatory bodies are going to, kick tires and hold off on giving them the tools they need to succeed, then it falls to you guys to do that. And I really, really believe that that is something that if we work together, we can help empower lawyers to run more successful practices and build a sustainable future for themselves. So, building out an extensive and empowering practice management library also requires that you know about your resources to do that. All right, so let's kind of talk about that. What are your resources that you can turn to when you want to build out your own member resources? So the first is your peers, right? All of you represent a wealth of experience and knowledge and information, and it is so important that you talk to each other about the kind of resources that each of your associations is offering to your members. As part of the workshop that we did at ClioCon, we had a brainstorming component. So we had everyone evaluate their own resources, and then we put them into groups, and we had them talk about it. We had them talk about what was working, what wasn't working. Hey, did you want to try this? I wanted to try that. Maybe we could work together on trying it. These are it's really important to talk to each other about what you're doing and to kind of work together collaboratively to provide the best resources that you can. So the second one is legal tech vendors. I know, everyone's just like, but they're gonna sell us stuff. Well, not always. I mean, look at Clio. The Legal Trends Report is the tip of the iceberg of resources that we offer for business management and practice development, or practice management and business development. We have a wealth of information and knowledge at our disposal that we are more than happy to share. And we are not the only tech company that is like that. We're the best. We do the best job of it, I have to say. But we're definitely not the only ones that offer those kind of resources. And we are more than happy to help. At our session at ClioCon, we provided all of our partners with a list of the resources that our program has available to them. Things like webinars, white papers, the Legal Trends Report. We're more than happy to come and do CLEs and CPDs and talk to their people about things other than our product. And that's a really, really valuable resource. And obviously, you take everything you hear with a grain of salt, right? But there's a lot of information to be had by these vendors because they understand how to use data, and the very well-being of their business depends on them keeping current with legal trends. Okay, so use that. Use their resources to your benefit. And the last one is yourselves. You guys are your own best resource, right? You have the ability to learn, to constantly be curious, to inquire, to find more information, to be resourceful, to track down, oh, hey, one of my members came to me with this issue. How can I help them succeed? How can I find more information to give on to them or to give to them, and then to also share with everyone else in the community. And not only that, but if you're working collaboratively as a community to build resources, you want to bring as much into that as you're getting out of it. You want to make sure that you're bringing in new and interesting information that everyone else can benefit from. All right? So, that's that. I've got a couple just key takeaways from today's presentation. And, sorry, okay. So the first is client experience and firm performance impact firm growth, right? We've already established that. And they're two really important things to think about. The second, lawyers need support. They need your help to run businesses because law school doesn't teach them how to do it. So they need all the help that they can get. And finally, law societies are key to building a thriving industry. You have the power to empower your members, and I fully believe that you can do that. So, that's it. Any questions? Aha, yes, hi.
Hi. A couple questions. I'll get it. Hi, I have a couple questions. The first is in terms of drilling down the data that you acquired, any differences between the traditional trust and bill style of revenue generation versus contingency generation? And is there any correlation or between expected outcomes and clients not paying their bills on time?
That's a big question. And so the short answer is yes. Yeah, I feel like we might have to have a conversation afterwards because that is it's a whole other, when you're looking at other types of revenue generation like flat fee billing and contingency, there are so many other factors that kind of come into play there. And you cannot measure them the same way that you can measure billable hours. So maybe we should talk afterwards because there's a lot to be covered there. Okay, next question?
Hi there.
Hi.
Clio is a cloud-based program, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you said there's 70,000 Clio firms that you use to gather some information from.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is about the gathering process. Because you said it's aggregated and anonymized.
Yes.
Okay. How did you collect that? Or let's go a different direction. Where did the permission come from, the consents come from to collect that information?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that part of the licensing obligations or?
Yeah, so everything is outlined in our terms of service, and participation is completely optional. We make that very, very clear. If at any time a firm says to us, we want our data pulled from that report, we will do it. We will go in and take it out.
So it goes into the report first, and you have to actively remove it?
Yeah, So it's outlined in our terms of service.
Got it.
Yeah. Anyone else? No? Okay. Awesome. Thank you.